Okay. Would you please rise and we'll say the pledge together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Ward. Absent. Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Were there any corrections? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Abstain.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Thank goodness we had 3, right? Okay, well, I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. A small group, but a very smiling, happy group. So nice to see your smiling faces, and thank you for coming. And we'll go ahead with our reports. I don't see Ella, so she's not coming tonight.
Well,
Or do
maybe
you have
before
her?
we get that, we've got a special presentation to the board
Oh,
tonight.
right,
Yeah, so, there's been,
Operation Prince.
yes, we call it Operation Prince or Adopting a Brigade or a variety of different things, but there's just been some amazing acts of kindness going on at the middle school, and I thought it was just really relevant during this time of the holiday season to share some of those things. It's brought a really positive light on our middle school, and of course, even across Central Ohio. It's been on Channel 4 and a number of news stations, and I went and begged April if their group could come, and they're more than glad to share. They're tired. It's been a long day. I said, hey, we'll go at 5 o'clock, and they're like, okay, we're ready to go. So I'm gonna let you guys take over because you've done some amazing things. So let me pull this up so we can kind of see this. You want to take this?
Sure.
Don't you give it back to me.
Okay.
Don't run off.
I shopped kids all day.
So as all of you know, our principal, Darren Prince, last spring was called up to active duty and is currently serving in Iraq. And we really did not want to miss the opportunity to teach our kids about what that sacrifice and service looks like and what it means. So we have a Darren committee at the middle school that has focused on primarily taking care of Darren and his family.
Yeah.
But we wanted to do something even more special. We had reached out to Darren and asked him what he needed and how we could help him. And you know, he's so humble, and he's such a minimalist anyway. It's just always, oh, I'm fine. I have everything I need. And so we were really trying to be thoughtful about how we could not only impact Darren, but then also maybe do something nice for some of the soldiers who serve with him. Oh, the mouse doesn't want to work on this. Okay.
Every year, I teach 6th grade, and every year I start the year with my students reading Cracker, the Best Dog in Vietnam. Each year we do something then to benefit the military or war dogs or something animal in our community. Hopefully those lessons will last forever. I take kids to read to the dogs at the Knox County Animal Shelter every Saturday. We purchased the German Shepherd at the Dog Fountain one year. 2 years we helped contribute at the Mott's Military Museum to the Vietnam War Dog Memorial. And when Darren came in at the beginning of the school year for one of the last times, I said, hey, are there any dogs that are going to be with you during the station? He said, as a matter of fact, yes. So immediately from that point, I knew what we were going to do, but I also knew this was going to be bigger than just my team. I would need the whole school.
And so then that's where I came in. I help with the Darren committee at our school, and we mostly just try to take care of Darren's family as well, because that's how then Darren knows we're taking care of him. So we try to do something special for them like each month. Anyways, Trudy has been doing this for years with the War Dogs. It's always, like, her kids love it and they just get the best participation. So when I heard her talking to Darren about it, she came to me, we kind of got on board with each other and we're like, let's just do it. And she's like, this is gonna be huge. And I'm like, okay, like, it's fine. And then honestly, I think I said, it's fine, April will help us too. And I just started like volunteering like all my friends in my hallway. So we decided we would take the 67 men and women of his brigade. That's the smaller one that he belongs to. He actually, there's about 300 and some of them over there, but we thought at first it was like 9 or 10 War Dogs, but it turned into be 11. And then that's all we were gonna do at first. That's what we put out to our students and parents and staff. But then Trudy got crazy and decided we had to do the 11 handlers too. And we also then got St. Vincent on board. You wanna talk about that?
With the handlers, I went to a PTO meeting, just talked to the leadership there, and luckily Ann Berkey was there and she heard what I was thinking. With the handlers, they're not directly in Darren's brigade. They were going to be outside of that, and I thought there's no way I can send goodies for these dogs without the handlers getting something too, because they're 100% our heart. So we added them in. St. Vincent actually said, hey, what can we do? And I said, you know what, I have 11 handlers that need you. So they took it on and they came through for us.
So when we first started brainstorming, like, how are we gonna do this? Trudy was great in helping us come up with the big picture, but we decided that we have 8 teams. Well, we have 9 teams total, but we would take 8 teams and give them 8 or 9 soldiers to focus on. We have their names. Darren was able to get us the names of each soldier. And then Trudy's team, of course, just focused on War Dogs. They took all of that, in which they ended up, of course, having way more boxes than 11. But anyways, and then like we said, St. Vincent joined in. So you can see in the picture there, that's like my class and I think April's class as well.
Yes, all together.
And that's packing day, where they're kind of making little personal notes to tuck in each box. This is April and I too, like and even Trudy, we were like, how can we get the kids to see this?
We needed a visual statement that said where we were for our collection.
Yes.
So we put each of our 9 team names on the wall in our upstairs hallway, and then Taryn made these little boxes that have each of the soldiers' names on them. So, like, this is my team in particular, and we, you know, there were 2 elements to the collection. There was the funding for the shipping, which was approximately $23 per box to ship, and then there was the you know, getting the materials needed, the items for the boxes. So we wanted to distinguish between those 2 things, and we wanted the kids to be able to see where they were as a team and then also as a building. So we came up with this idea that as the boxes were sponsored for shipping, we would put the name of the person, people, company that sponsored the shipping and as a little star. And then as the teachers reported that the boxes were filled, we would add a bow to the box.
And so then that way the kids could see, you know, this is how many boxes we have filled, and this is, or, you know, we need to rev up, like that team's got all their boxes filled. And so it kind of helped us motivate the kids as well.
Really good motivation.
Yeah. We sent a letter home. Again, this was where Trudy was instrumental. She kind of showed us what she's done in the past. We were thrilled when we got word from Darren that they had all their basic necessities of personal hygiene and care items. And he wanted us to kind of focus more on comfort items, like snacks, games, socks, anything holiday themed. And so that's when we just went nuts, like, because we realized, like, let's just do this thing. And
well, and kids don't care about shampoo.
no.
They don't care about deodorant. But if you say, you know what, bring in your favorite snacks, they're all about that. So they brought in all kinds of goodies activities that, well, only kids would like.
Yeah, and we did a lot of we did a lot of research as well. We read a lot of blogs, and they said, you know, hot sauce is a big commodity. So like kids were like, we can totally get you hot sauce. Like,
Oh, they were
And they
raiding
went-
Taco Bell.
yeah, like-
They came in with like bags of individual hot sauces.
and that's what the blogs said they want, because then they can take it with them into the field. So we
It's really
also made a
Taste of the food.
yeah. We also made a post on social media, and we created like a wish list on Amazon for those items we were kind of like worried about. We wanted to be sure like every soldier got a nice quality pair of socks, and things like that. So we shared that, and then that's when the community really started, like it kind of went crazy. We also sent out emails to every school central office. We had tons of people just saying, I'm gonna sponsor 2 boxes, or here's this. Wiggins Street, like Dan Emmett sponsored multiple boxes.
Wiggins Street.
Wiggin
PTO.
Street was like 24 boxes.
Wow.
And so every time this would happen, we would all cry and then we would move on. But yeah, the community, we were having things dropped off in the front office by like
From
grandparents.
random people.
Yeah, who just wanted a gift. So it was really great.
And some of our kids, they weren't in a position to bring anything in, and we really wanted to make sure that they also could feel this personal connection. So many teachers offered opportunities for kids to make things in their classrooms to put in their boxes. And so here you see a couple of the things that we did. We have some Christmas ornaments that we put on strings and tucked in some boxes. And then also for my soldiers, my kids did these open when you cards.
Oh.
So open when you can't sleep, open when you need a good laugh, open when you need a pep talk, a compliment, you're having a bad day. And I added a few of my favorites here that I just thought were adorable, like the dad joke up in the upper left, why do eggs tell jokes? They crack each other up. So that was just a way for the kids to be involved when they didn't feel like they had the means to bring in something of monetary value.
And they took it serious. Like
So serious.
it was serious. And actually a lot of her students made so many of those, we were able to tuck them in extra boxes. And then like 8th grade teams, those kids wrote letters. There were multiple letters to each soldier. Like every team kind of had their own thing. And it was just really awesome to see how that came together.
So heartwarming.
At the end of the drive, we finished collecting all the boxes and everything got delivered to my room. And actually they were being delivered all day, and we had students helping all day long pack those boxes. Probably my most favorite part of this was watching the students try to fit as many items in those boxes. And when I say they're stuffed, I'm talking like you couldn't get another thing in those.
So our rule to the kids was, when we shake the box, we don't want to hear anything move.
Yeah.
So it has to be really packed in there. And Taryn and I, we came up with a verb, we called it, well, it's to Tetris a box or Tetrising. So we would tell the kids, okay, well, we need you to Tetris this box and make sure everything is like packed in and tucked neatly in there. And then the kids, they started, like everything was about Tetrising, or, you know,
Yeah.
this box has already been Tetrised. And so then everyone was saying it,
And then other things started rolling in as the day went on. Like somebody like just rolled a flatbed into my room, and they were like, all this stuff was just dropped off. And I'm like, okay. So if you look over on the left side, there's my counter in my room. We kind of set it up like a shop, like a little store. And we had all the items, and we knew all the stuff. Like every box had socks, every box had a cooling towel, every box had popcorn or whatever. Like we had all these things. But then the kids got really serious. They were like, that's it, we can get more in there. So they're like repackaging boxes, and they would just go shop over there. Like, you know what, they need beef sticks, or they need this because they have Pop-Tarts. And they were so good and so into making sure that each box was so special. And I think that was my favorite part of just seeing how serious they were about getting these boxes to be as perfect as they could get them for their soldiers.
and then because Taryn and I are sentimental criers, we're watching the kids do this, and then we're just sitting back there wiping tears and just, I mean, it was just such an amazing experience to share with them.
So we ended up having like 100 some boxes. We actually are still getting things floating in today. I got like 4 or 5 more boxes. So we all have talked about it, and we're actually gonna save some of that stuff and try to ship a few, like some more boxes around Valentine's Day after the holidays. Because we also have some more dog stuff
Yeah.
too. But yeah, so the kids helped us keep stuff organized. We've got Post-its on all those boxes. We had everything because every single box has to have a customs form. So that was a little bit crazy too. Trudy had to walk me through all that.
Yes.
But together we got it done.
That was my Thanksgiving. I
Yeah.
spent a whole lot of time filling out customs.
Yeah, we split them and we just knocked them out.
So then in the end, we loaded up our cars with, every single troop got a full box, every dog got a box, every handler got a box, and Darren received several additional boxes.
I think he's gonna get like 8 to 10 extra boxes
to just distribute.
to give to whoever needs them.
And probably one of the sweetest parts of our entire experience was dealing with the U.S. Postal Service. They were so good to us. We called them ahead of time. They knew we were coming in. We were still there for over 3 hours.
Yeah.
They took all the boxes out of our cars for us. They took them into the building, and we got to know them, and now they're our best friends.
And they also, we really did become close. And they also now know like all the team names at the school because we had all the boxes labeled. So they'd be like, who's doing Fidelis?
Yeah.
Who's doing Valor? And they were like bringing the boxes and we're like passing out custom forms. So it was like a big party, but they were amazing.
Yes.
They helped us so much,
Yes.
and we couldn't have done it without them.
And Tammy at the post office, her son was in the service, and she said, I just don't even think you realize how special this is and how much it's going to mean to the soldiers when they get these
Also,
boxes.
Channel 4, the guy who came, he actually is here local, the guy who came Monday, last Monday. And when we were shipping boxes, and he said that he would love it if we could reach back out to him once the boxes get there. And we already reached out to Darren, and he said he'll do his best once they come to take pictures and maybe some short videos of the troops getting their boxes. And then Channel 4 wants us to reach back out and hopefully share that with them so they can,
Do a follow-up.
yeah. So we think that's really great.
And then lastly, just in case you're interested in who sponsored boxes, we wanted to do a little thank you to all of the people who made this possible, because without them, there's just no way we could have shipped 100 boxes.
That's amazing.
It was really heartwarming. It was a really great experience.
So you see why I wanted to bring them to this board meeting.
make us all tear
I don't know, even for us guys, I mean, maybe it's because I'm getting older, but you guys really make me proud. I mean,
Oh, thank you.
that's it's pretty special.
Well, we're so proud of Darren too. I mean, and to be away from your family, it's just, it's terrible, you know?
And we love him.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for
Thanks for
having
having
us.
us.
Anybody have any questions? And you guys don't have to stay. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, we can't top that.
No, we can't.
No, we can't do that. And, I think, I almost wonder with Ella, she may show up at 6 o'clock, and if she does, I'm sorry. I don't know if anybody got a hold of Ella. April, of course, was just here, and Mike was on the road, so. We
And there
won't
is
have
no
any
public
report this time.
participation.
Yeah, public participation.
So we can move ahead. No board items for discussion.
No.
Information or approval. You do have some additions.
You have some additions, and so those are listed in your agenda. One is in the area of finance. It's a donation. We have a facility request for a travel softball team, and then we have a substitute teacher contract. So those have been added to your agenda. As we go down to the superintendent's report, I have a number of items really for information, and I've linked them there just to kind of share a couple of these with you. Every year we have to have a process to talk about our calendar for the following year. It always seems like, hey, we're just into this year, we're talking about next year's calendar, but I'm gonna pull this up, it's on your thing there if you wanna see it, but it's very similar to the stuff that I'll share shared in previous years. But this will date our 30-day timeline for when we'll approve a calendar next month. So this is our official hearing. Again, a legislative requirement that 30 days prior to adopting our school calendar, we hold a public hearing, and that's today, addressing some topics that they like us to address. We try to include this information in here. Again, required by law is this number of hours of instruction. And again, grades K to 6, it's 910, grades 7 to 12, it's 1,001. And you'll see that in our calendar, we're way over those hours as we go into it. And actually, there are deductions here. So, you know, when they start to deduct parent-teacher conference and in-service days, it's really 886 and 989. And we're almost at 1,200 hours at the high school level and well over 1,000 at the elementary. So you kind of take a look at that. As you look at 2022-23, that's this current calendar. Our first day was August 18th. Teachers' first day was the 15th. Our last day will be May 31st. And actually the teachers go into June this next year. And, you know, part of the trade-off there was having a few extra days that we sprinkled into the calendar. And there has been a really positive feedback about those extra days sprinkled in that I think, as long as you don't go too far, you know, into June or past Labor Day, they would rather have that than some districts who like to finish like mid-May. And so I think that's important. Our typical day is a 9 to 3:30 and a 7:45 to 2:35. So, you know, the high school and middle school, you know, they go an extra 20 minutes as part of their day. Oops. Some of the calendar highlights that we always try to include, we usually start on some sort of an abbreviated week. In other words, we don't come in and start on Monday because that's tough to start right off with a 5-day week. So we kind of abbreviate it, and in some instances, we have even stagger started some grade levels. Kindergarten was a tremendous success this year, taking it beyond just 2 days, but the next week. And we do something special with 6th grade and freshmen to get started. 4 9-week grading periods or 2 semesters, 2 days for parent-teacher conferences, and then of course you see kind of the holidays that are there. Most of our in-service and professional development days are really before school. And then we are able to sneak in a couple during the school year, but those are generally far and few between. We do have some special considerations. Most schools are beginning around the middle of August. We always think about in-service days. We think about that Thanksgiving Day break. One thing we did different this year that we've not done in years is we had the Monday after. And we've heard a lot of really positives about that. And it also kind of made us on par with everybody in the county and of course the Career Center. Winter break is really interesting this year or in the coming year. Generally we like 2 full weeks, and it's nice to bookend those with 3 weekends. You'll see that next year that's impossible to do because of where Christmas falls. And spring break is usually either the end of March, 1st of April. We like to end school somewhere right around that Memorial Day timeframe. I will say some of our neighboring districts are trying to end before Memorial Day in this new calendar. We're gonna go just afterwards so that we can sprinkle in a few of those days. And this is part of the OHRC code. We certainly look at our union contract. We have transparency rules. We have got the Career Center's calendar. It's really important that we work collaboratively with our Career Center relative to this, as well as our community and non-charters. And so December 12th, this particular meeting is our 30-day prior notice, and so we'll get this information out. Here's the calendar that, and we've met, in the past, we have met several meetings trying to hammer out a calendar. This one we hammered out in 20 minutes because it was so similar. I mean, that we finally have fallen on one that they really, really like. And so I put a copy there for you in front of you. I know that was a little bit hard to see. You'll notice that the start time in this calendar is very similar to last year. It's kind of that 3rd week in August with a Thursday start. typical September. We did make little adjustments this year in October and November. We moved up parent-teacher conferences this past year, and I think the consensus was it was so close to the end of the 9 weeks, it put a little bit of pressure on folks to get everything done in time. So we kind of backed that down 1 week there. You'll see over Thanksgiving break, this calendar does have that Monday included there. The real tricky part about this calendar for 23-24 is Christmas is on Monday. And so you'll notice that we're gonna go to school a couple days in the week preceding Christmas and then be off those 3 days the following week and then come back in January just on the 3rd. The end of the semester is the 12th. February is pretty typical. End of the third 9 weeks is the 22nd. We're going to have spring break be the last week in March. And then of course, Easter Sunday is the 30th. And so, and again, we're thinking not this coming Easter, we're thinking the next one. And so it's on a Sunday, so travel we thought was important. You'll notice there then that we do go through Memorial Day. Teacher's last day is on the 31st. We actually picked up one instructional day this year on this calendar. Last year we were at 174. This year we picked up one at 175. Although I do have a slide coming up I want to bring to your attention. And how many of you are aware of this?
Yeah.
In 2023-24, on Monday, April 8th, we're gonna have a total eclipse, and it will be the first time to have a total solar eclipse since, I think it says, through Ohio since 1806. There are a lot of districts now, because of the path of this eclipse going right over Mount Vernon, we'll have about a 4-minute time frame, right about 3 o'clock, that we'll have a total eclipse. Some schools are canceling school already this far in advance. Some are doing early release. And I started to ask the questions, well, why? Why would they do this? Safety is a part of it. The fact that it's right about 3 o'clock and we got kids on buses. The other thing that I heard at our superintendent's meeting on Friday was they expect this swath going through Ohio, they expect a lot of people. So people are gonna come from all over the United States because it's been so long since we've had this totality of an eclipse that right down this corridor, people are gonna flock to this area because they wanna see it, because it's so rare to be seen.
Wow.
So all that to say, 3 of the schools are going to close. 1 is doing an early release. And I said I would bring it up at this meeting. Obviously, we've got time until then to decide what to do, and maybe there'll be something more official come out that they'll want us to do, I don't know. But if we would happen to take that day and call it, whatever we would call it, we would go from 175 days to 174, which is what we had this year, or maybe we early release. It's hard to say you'll get a whole lot of educational value at 3 o'clock, because schools ended already at the high school. Could they do stuff up until that time? Sure. Then you gotta worry about the safety glasses and making sure everybody has them. So I can see 50-50 on that, and I don't know if the board has any thought relative to just this particular experience, but it could have an impact on this particular calendar that we have up.
And if we did early release, what would that?
Generally, we do a 2-hour early release.
Everybody would be actually home. Our buses delivered everybody within.
Yeah, so if we did a 2-hour early release at the elementary, they'd be dismissed at 1:30. Probably everybody's home within a half hour to 45 minutes. Again, and maybe that's a thought. Again, parents have to plan for that, of course.
They might want to be home to see it too.
We might, and what we probably don't want to have happen is have people, looking out the bus as they're driving at a full eclipse and then not knowing what the traffic pattern will be like or where people will be. So we don't have to necessarily decide on that today, but maybe give that some thought. And then as we, look to approve a calendar in January, we may want to think about what that might look like.
And has BASA had any conversation on it or any directive from the state at all?
We haven't gotten any directive from the state yet. As a matter of fact, this kind of caught, Gary and I by surprise. We're like, what are they talking about?
Right.
And then lo and behold, as I began to ask around, some schools have really incorporated it into their calendars. So
What day of the week is that occurring on?
April 8th, which is a Monday, I believe.
Monday.
Yeah, it's a Monday.
I was thinking scientifically, it's a great opportunity for the children to experience our solar system in a certain way. But since it's falling on a Monday, preparations for that, like we would want a day or two ahead of time, and it just
Maybe
doesn't
the
seem
week
to.
prior, sure.
Yeah, maybe the week prior, we could just get the kids excited about something like that, but to actually be able to experience like we did, how many years ago, there was a partial sun eclipse, wasn't it? And I mean, our whole school system went nuts with science.
Well, Gary reminded me back when we had it was again a partial, it wasn't close to us, but they bought glasses for every student. And it kind of came over around, was it around the noon hour at that
Yes.
point? And it felt like you could kind of make something of it. The fact that this one is going to be a total right over, I mean, it looks like this path going from Texas right over Ohio on out. And for people who are really into astronomy, this is a big deal. Well, like you said, we haven't had this kind of an eclipse since 1804. Won't have it again. I mean, this won't happen again until 2444. So obviously, I won't be around then. So. Although maybe I will. So anyway, I wanted to bring that to your attention and let this serve as our calendar for as we look towards next year.
What would be the possibility of even having a remote day where they have things, activities there to do at home to prepare for it or something?
That's an interesting
You
idea.
could.
My concern is if we do have a lot of traffic, even if the buses leave at 1:30, they may get tied up, if it's really, I mean, I have no idea. You know how Mount Vernon can, I laugh at my husband because he gets upset sometimes with the traffic, and we've driven in LA traffic and Chicago. It's nothing like that, but, I can imagine.
A remote science day sounds really cool, actually.
Yeah, I think we want to just make sure that we can control what we can control, not be responsible for someone who,
Right.
I mean, last thing we'd want for someone to get hurt because, either we're supervising or we're not supervising. I feel like it's got to be one or the other. So, something to think about. The other thing I have here is, and I did include, what you have in front of you, I did include it as a PDF, so I'll leave that there for you. Section B in this district update is, I wanted to just take a quick second and share with you some things on calamity days. So, calamity days can come in a variety of different forms. Generally, we think of them as weather-related calamity days, but calamity day can also come in a form of illness. And so recently, we just had a situation where we had to shut down a school for a day due to illness. And so I wanted to just kind of explain to you what we look at when we have those conversations. So from the illness standpoint, it can come from two reasons. Number one, staff shortage. We just don't have enough staff and I'll tell you what, real kudos to quite frankly, our teachers, our aides, everybody. We've had a lot of teachers who have been sick, but there's been a willingness to share and to jump in, to take planning periods. And so we've not had to shut a school down because of staffing issues up to this point. But you can only imagine in a certain building, let's just say an elementary building, with two teachers out, you could wipe out a grade level. More would be even more difficult. The other thing is student absenteeism. And several years ago, working with the health department, we came up with a plan that if we had above 20% absenteeism for multiple consecutive days, we would then consider the idea of shutting school down. And we were very specific that we said they had to be absences due to illness, not, hey, I got two dentists, I got these two going to the dentist and these folks are on vacation, because those shouldn't count in the numbers. And we wanted it to be consecutive days. It can't just be like a one-day spike. It needs to be for a consecutive period. At D&M on Monday of last week, they had 78 students out on Monday, almost 100 a little over 100 on Tuesday, back down to 84 on Wednesday. And just to give you an example, those numbers are closer to 30%. At least the one was actually closer to 40. So we sent out a letter on Wednesday saying, if tomorrow, we have a continuation of this escalated absenteeism, we'll let you know by 10:30, but we may close on Friday. And really what I think you're shooting for is to have that long weekend to get it kind of through, right? I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense to shut school down on a Wednesday and bring them back on a Thursday. You're trying to get that piece there. Sure enough, they were at 82 on Thursday, and so we sent that letter home on Friday. Heard nothing but positive about the communication on Wednesday, and then of course making that decision. I'm sure parents had to make some adjustments, but we did a deep clean then on the weekend, on Friday and the weekend, and lo and behold, just to give you an update, today they only had 15 out, so they were down to 6% out.
Wow.
Where they were so high. So it obviously accomplished what we hoped it would do. And the same thing happened in 2020 at Columbia. To give you an idea, today, the high school is sitting at 8% absentee, the middle school's at 11.2%, Twin Oaks at 10%, East today was 17%, Columbia's at 7%, Pleasant Street's at 17%, Wiggin Street's at 7%, and D&M's at 6%. I really think, I think we're gonna be able to get ourselves to the weekend. A couple of those bigger buildings, if they just continued to rise, again, I don't think it would make any sense to do anything in the middle of the week. It might be something you look at the end of the week, but hopefully we're able to kind of keep those numbers manageable. Okay. And then the other thing that I put here for Calamity Days, and this is on our website, this is how do we make a decision relative to snow days. I think we're gonna get to Friday without having to use a snow day, which is the first time in a couple years. But just a really interesting kind of a snapshot of how we make a decision, road conditions, amount of snow or ice. Is it expected to continue? What's the temperature or wind chill? -10 on a sustained basis, meaning, you just don't have one spike to 10 and then you're down. It's gotta stay that way, through those peak pickup times. And then, of course, there's some of the other things. Who makes the decision? I make the final decision with support from others, but the buck stops with me, and so that's why I get the phone calls. I just understand that's part of it. And I do work with Todd directly. Todd and I split the district in half. I drive half of a route, and he drives another half of a route. We also talk with our local directors of transportation and superintendents from other portions of the county. We want to try to make our decision by 5:30. It's often tough. A lot of these other schools don't have to make it till 6 o'clock. We try really hard to make it by 5:30 because we do have people who leave to come into work, especially food service and some of those folks. I would say a really high percentage, we get it done by 5:30, but occasionally it's a 5:33. Sometimes it's hitting send and waiting for it to go, but that's our goal. We also, we put it out in multiple ways, which you'll see in a second. We will delay start if we believe there has value, that 2 hours will make a big difference. But I also realize that a delayed start does still cause challenges for families, right? So we really have to feel like the weather's going away and that 2 hours will get especially township people out to do those roads. If conditions worsen, once we have kids here, we really we don't like to ever send kids home early. That's really a challenge to communicate that during the middle of the school day to try to make arrangements. So we really try to not do that. But if it would come, we would have the ability to do it. Public is notified through our Instant Connect. We send out our instant texts. We also put it on our website. John does a great job of that. And then we do have a number of TV stations, radio stations, and Knox pages that we get that information out. So if it's 5:30 and I'm making that quick call, I immediately do Instant Connect first, because that gets out to the greater, almost golly, it's a couple thousand that we send that out to. And then I go down to the radio stations, Knox pages, and then the other pieces, okay? So anyway, just wanted to give you a quick kind of a snapshot of what that looks like. It is on our website. Anybody who's watching, please feel free to go there. It's under our district, it's under communications, and then you can kind of see, and if people need to sign up for our Instant Connect, that's a place to do it as well.
I have a question, Bill, on the 2-hour delay.
Yeah.
You talked about the weather related. What about fog? Because I know we've had a couple really.
We don't do much with fog, I'm gonna be honest.
Okay.
You know, we've talked as county superintendents, it's just so hard to forecast fog. Sometimes when it gets lighter, it's actually harder to see.
Right.
You know, if we would get something maybe the night before where they're calling for a dense fog and we had a chance to get out and check it, I can leave my house and it's perfectly clear. I get down to the split there and it's really foggy. So
Yeah.
I know there are some people who said, boy, it was really foggy, why didn't we have a delay?
Right.
It's just too hard it's such a hard one to predict.
Okay, thank you.
Unless the board has another thought on that, I mean, it just,
As long as the bus drivers feel,
well, what we tell them is just slow down.
yeah,
You
right.
know, you got your lights, and again, you get into a low-lying area where there's maybe more water, you're gonna get a little different than you are somewhere else.
Yes.
And most of the drivers will tend to say, it sometimes is, if you're really fogged in, it's actually harder as it gets a little lighter, believe it or not, but
Thank you.
that is a tough one.
Question.
And maybe the one that I hate the most is ice. Snow I can see, ice, you just don't know. And when you start getting into this 28 to 32 degrees and what's it look like and black ice here, and those are challenges. And then last but not least, and we'll move right along, is we've had a really neat winter concert session. Pam's been out taking pictures everywhere. We've gotten to quite a few of them up to this point. I just wanted to put these up here for you tonight. So tonight is the middle school, high school choir concert at MVNU. That's why we're going early tonight. We have 2 tomorrow night, East and Wigan Street. On Wednesday night, we have the high school orchestra starts at 6:30. The high school band starts at 7:30. We had middle school band and orchestra last week and it was packed. I mean, you talk about a time I was like, oh, I wish we had another 400 seats.
Yeah.
I mean, and so we're trying to stagger it to try to help that out. Then on Thursday, we have 2 more. We have Dan Emmett, which will be at the high school theater, and then Twin Oak is out at the chapel. So 4 nights to get a chance to see some really neat musical, see our kids at their best. So with that superintendent's report, I also have suggested here as an item 2, suggested board meeting dates for 2023. Feel free to take a look at that. We won't decide on that until our January board meeting, but I've included a calendar for you to review as well as some suggested dates. Most everything's on the 3rd Monday. There's a couple that it just fits better differently, but feel free to take a look at that. And so that's all I have for items for information, and that's probably the longest part of our agenda tonight, so. I have 2 items for board approval tonight. The expiration of a term of office for the Knox County Career Center. Jody has been doing that for us, and she has agreed to continue, which we're so very thankful for. And so I have that up there, and I also have an organizational regular meeting date for January. By law, we have to have this meeting before the 15th. And so we're looking at the Monday before that, which is Monday, January 9th, as an organizational meeting.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve those items as read.
Would it be best to separate those two so Jody could?
It would be, actually, yes. Thank you for thinking of that.
Okay, so I'll move that we,
I think you might want to remember, okay, because we'd have 3 votes.
Yeah.
Because Mr. Ward is not here today.
Right, I think we're okay though.
okay, I move that we, place Jody as our, Knox County Career, Mrs. Getzman as our Knox County Career Board of Education representative.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. And are there any questions? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Abstain?
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for doing that. And then I'll move that we set up our organizational meeting for January 9th, 2023.
And I will second that.
Okay. Any concerns about that? Discussion? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you.
I'll make a correction on that when we move forward, so. Okay. Also a separate motion here, just because there's people involved, we need to have a motion to appoint a president pro tem for the January 23rd organizational meeting. Dr. Bennett has been really gracious in the past to do that as president, but we always leave that open for
Anybody else do it?
nominations. Does anybody have a nomination there?
I make Dr. Bennett.
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion to appoint Dr. Bennett as president pro tem. We have a second.
Any questions or comments? All right, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Mr. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
I'll abstain. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jody wanted married too.
That takes us to curriculum instruction.
Right. And
Couple items, well, one item for information. I'll turn it over to Dr. Bennett.
the student achievement report success for this month was really good.
It was good.
I don't know if you had a chance to read them, so I'm not gonna talk about all of them because, you really need to read them for yourselves. But the first one is about Ohio students getting a head start on manufacturing careers, and this is at Cleveland's Magnet, which I thought was pretty clever, Manufacturing Advocacy and Growth Network. They turned it to Magnet. So you need to read about that. That's a great opportunity for students in the Cleveland area. The second one is about if you want resilient and well-adjusted kids, let them play. So it's all about the importance of play and developing the brain and developing resiliency, and that it has a lot to do with competency and actual brain size. So I thought that was really interesting. The third article is about high school experience, students experiencing water and watersheds and projects that they do to learn about that. The fourth is several ways to nurture student well-being and how students help supported spaces for them to decompress and release stress. And they had lots of suggestions about communal coloring and kindness rocks, which I know the middle school has done before, and motivational messages, puzzle parties, etc. The fifth is about middle school student strategies for educators, and they talked about the rapid neurological learning, psychological and social changes that our middle school kids go through and how they really do need support, and they had some great ideas for strategies. And then the student achievement index was about school closures not necessarily being completely responsible for the learning loss, and there's some data that's showing that that is true for schools across the board, so I thought that was interesting. But just really especially good this month, so. But since we have executive session and we have a program to go to, I didn't want to take
Good.
a lot of time to go through those.
In this section, we just have one item for board approval tonight. The varsity softball team, and it's the varsity softball team is looking to take a spring trip to Florida. And so we really went through their documentation to make sure it was all meets the kind of standards that we've kind of set over the past couple of years. We did send it back just to be double checked in a couple areas, and so I feel like this meets our general standard.
Okay, I'm going to entertain a motion to approve that one item as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Do you have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Were there any questions? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Rolla
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And we'll turn it over to our treasurer for fiscal services.
Thank you.
We're glad that you're feeling better.
So
You can go to page 3, Bill. Not a whole lot to talk about on that, but
Takes a little bit
it was like me on that Zoom meeting. It didn't want to come up.
you know.
Not a ton going on here that's out of the ordinary. As you guys know, the property taxes, we'll probably be looking at the next round in February. So a lot of these are blank, other than the typical state foundation money that comes in twice every month. You can see it there. Line 1.030, unrestricted grants and aid, state foundation. It's my favorite type of state money is the unrestricted, so we can use it how we want to use it. Then we've got restricted, which includes wellness now, as you guys know. That was a separate line item, but that is now being combined into the general fund. Other than that, not a whole lot going on in terms of the general fund. So there's no questions on that. I will point out an appropriation that is also linked to the agenda. This is in our athletic fund. So you can see $53,000 over there. You might say that's kind of an odd number. Based on initial budgeting, that's as high as I could raise it before I'll have to go back to the Knox County Auditor. So I'm hoping that gets me through, but if not, we'll take care of it when that time comes. But these are accounts where they have the money and they're making the money, so I don't get too much acid reflux over these type of situations. So that for board approval, and I'll go ahead and read the donations, and then if you have any questions, we can go from there. We have a donation from Stephen Rex in honor of his late wife to Columbia. $500 donation to the Angel account to pay fees for students in need. We really appreciate that. Sorry for your loss, Mr. Rex. We have a donation from the First Christian Church of $200 also to Columbia PTO. So we appreciate those donations.
We do. I would entertain a motion to approve those items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Rolla. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Workman. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Rolla
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Legislative lead.
Thank you. I'm just going to focus on SB 178, which was recently voted out of the Senate and is going to be sent to the House. The Senate Bill 178 would change the functions and responsibilities of the State Board of Education and the Superintendent of Public Instruction. It would create the Department of Education and Workforce with a cabinet-level director appointed by the governor and approved by the state Senate. The State Board of Education would then have limited power relegated to teacher licensure, educator or staff conduct, and territory transfer decisions. I sent emails to our representative, our state senator, and the chair of the Secondary Education Committee, telling them my concerns about this. And one nice thing is that they put into the bill recently a 90-day extension, so they will not be voting on this as soon as what we had thought. And so I'm going to look and see if they're going to have any public participation. And I would like to go, if I can, to the state and voice my concerns about this. So far, it's been moving so quickly that I think OSBA hasn't really had a chance to say, hey, hold it for a while. Maybe that's why they put the 90-day extension on it, I don't know. But then the other reports are there for your perusal, and there are so many bills that I thought, no way can I go through all those. So you can do that at your leisure. Thank you. And if you have any concerns or questions about that, me contacting anybody, please let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One other item for information here before we go into the board approval section. This item of information is the student-based health center is moving along really, really well. And if anybody has a desire to go check that area out, let me know and I'll get you a hard hat and we'll go over and take a look. But as you know, when we did the original contract, we put in contingency funds. That's part of every contract. And I think in this particular initiative, there was close to $100,000 in contingencies. They came across some areas that needed to be fixed up in the back of this, in the back of the room that wasn't part of the original project. It's like if you've ever seen block wall where you start to see crack along the, you know, the grout lines. They feel like they need to go in and shore those things up. So it's coming out of the contingency, but we keep track of these things very closely. We always love it when we get money back out of our contingency fund, so we do monitor them pretty closely, but I wanted to bring that to your attention.
Can we ask a question about that? Are they actually going to be taking the block out and reinforcing it from the back, or just?
Yeah, I think they actually do it from both sides, and so while you can kind of see it on the front side, I believe you can also see it on the back side. So there's the point where the brick is, and then there's the block on the inside of the wall. So they're not actually gonna take things out and put them back in, but they do go in and kind of take out all the old and put in new.
Top pointed.
It was just so expensive, I was trying to understand why.
I know we've had to have some of this, they call it tuck pointing. We had to have this done at, over at West Elementary and some different places, and unfortunately, it costs what it costs.
And it's a messy job too.
Items for board approval tonight in this, we have OSBA membership dues. Those come up every year. Those have stayed relatively similar over the years, so that's there for your approval. We also added the school management dues, which I think has generally some good information to be shared in there. Item 2 is yearly we have participated in the OSBA Legal Assistance Fund. We often will use OSBA for legal advice on certain issues, and it's a minimal amount, but those 2 items for board approval tonight.
Yeah, I would entertain a motion to approve those 2 items. So moved. Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
And I will abstain.
We pulled this, there's a couple other pieces to this section. We pulled that out because Dr. Bennett is a central region
I'm a trustee, that's why I can't.
trustee, and so we do have a couple other items in this section for your approval tonight. There are 2 facility requests. One was an additional request. Knox Educational Service Center will be using the high school auditorium for the county spelling bee. And then the Mayhem Travel softball team will be using Columbia Elementary in the winter months. So those 2 items for your approval.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the facility request.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Were there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. And under student services,
No updates at this time.
Okay. And there we
And no
go.
items for board approval at this time.
All right, we're down then to certificated and licensed staff personnel items.
So no items for information in this section. As is customary, we do have a number of hiring kinds of things here. A rescinded contract for Rich Schumann, but his contract has been put in a different section under a little different parameters. We have some substitute teacher contracts, supplemental contracts listed there for you. We've actually made a little bit of a change, as I shared in our board review. We've added a section called pupil activity contracts issued to laypersons. So those are folks who are not employed with the district. And then, of course, we put in our language here that, you know, having offered and not given these jobs, lay people are then eligible for these positions. And you see those lay people there listed. And then we have a couple volunteers, items A through E for your approval tonight.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve those personnel items. Is there?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Any questions? I do think it's helpful to see that right up front, to separate those like that. Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And classified staff.
You have no items for information tonight, a number of items for board approval. You'll notice the Rich Schumann contract moved down here to this section because he is an employee and in a classified position. A couple other substitute employment. We do have a resignation and a retirement, so we always hate to lose bus drivers, but we do have a bus driver who will be leaving us. And Joe Durr has spent a long, long time at the high school. And he, you know, his wife retired a year ago. And so he's finally ready to retire as well. So hopefully we'll get a chance in May to kind of honor him in a different way, but he'll be retiring effective January 6th.
Entertain a motion then to approve. Oh, you have. Okay. I'm sorry, I hadn't scrolled down far enough. Were there any questions? Well, let's have a motion first.
I make a motion for approval.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. And now, were there any questions on any? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Mr. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And now we have board member comments. Mr. Workman, would you like to go first?
Well, yeah, thanks.
Let's go first this week.
That's right. I really enjoyed hearing Taryn, Trudy, and April's presentation. I had heard about that. I had no idea the scale that it was. Kudos to them. That was such a neat thing.
We didn't even clap when they left.
Yeah. With the student excitement and getting them involved, I just thought that was such a great thing. And especially helping Darren and supporting his family, I think is super important. So, but other than that, I would just like to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Ms. Regola-Dye.
Thank you. Thanks to those who are watching at home and to those who came. I was thinking during that presentation that this is what public education is about. And so many people doubt that we are teaching our children patriotism and service and kindness. And this is the perfect example of what public education is all about, in particular the Mount Vernon City School District. So if you're thinking about moving here, with your family. I highly recommend it. And I thank the staff and all their hard work through this first part of the year. And wishing good luck to our students and leaders of the music departments as they tread in the usual fantastic holiday programs. And thank you to the community for their continued support. And happy holidays to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm not sure what's left.
Nothing.
No. Yeah, the middle school has done, thank you, Tim. The middle school did an amazing job with the Operation Darren. Just amazing. I knew it was large, but I didn't realize the magnitude, as you had said earlier. And just the way they involved all of the students, whether they could financially contribute or not. They recognized the need for those that couldn't but would want to contribute, and that really warmed my heart. So again, thank you to the middle school for all of that, and I know Rob has done an outstanding job in filling in for Mr. Prince as well, so that's greatly appreciated as well. So Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to all.
And I guess I'll say the same thing. I was so impressed with our middle school leaders and teachers, and it just was heartwarming to hear about all they're doing. And I know the mother-in-law of Darren, and she can hardly talk about things without crying because she's so touched by the way the community has just reached out to their family and her daughter and the 4 children. So it just this is Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon is a wonderful place to live, and we're so fortunate to have teachers that are teaching our kids these kinds of values, and like Mary mentioned about service and just caring about each other and being there for each other. And my husband was in the military, so I know how hard it is to be separated. And I remember he used to say when I would send a package, all the guys would say, "What did our wife send us?" So they would share everything, and they become a family in and of themselves. So this just binds them together even more. So I'm just very proud of our district, and looking forward to the concert tonight, and wish all the teachers that, I know it's a lot of extra work to put on these programs, so I just hope and pray that it all goes smoothly and parents enjoy seeing their kids, and that everyone has a very happy New Year's and a very Merry Christmas, and lots of time with family and friends. So, and thank you all for coming this evening, and I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of personnel.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Ladai, and do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. And we will enter into executive session then, and no action will be taken afterwards. It's for the purpose of personnel.